Hello and welcome viewers. We have Colonel Shakti Rana with us. First of all, sir, welcome to Business World.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask you first of all, what have been your experience in the event, the panel that you just attended? Any key takeaways if you want to comment over?
Yeah, it's been quite an interactive session and quite a learning for me because lately I had stopped coming for the seminars because the things were getting repeated over and over again. So it's almost been about 7-8 years that I did not attend any one of these conferences. But it felt after this panel discussion and the keynote speakers who spoke, I actually felt that I had been missing out on a lot of information which is now available through the I would say word of mouth from the keynote stakeholders and the people who actually matter on ground. Reading books is a separate thing. Getting information on the internet is absolutely a different ball game. But when you interact with people and you know the ground reality, it actually enlightens you. It's quite an interactive session, very knowledgeable. And the subjects which you chose were absolutely appropriate and to the point. Loved it.
All right. So if you have to comment over the on-ground professionals, workforce of the private security industry, what are the problems that they usually undergo, and have there been any financial incentives for them in terms of compensation, or because they are always at the verge of they are always under risk. So what all mechanism is there to ensure that they are flourished? And yes,
you must have heard Captain Vikram in the morning, and he gave us insights into what are the developments, the Pasara Act, the star rating, the standardization. So I think this is a step in the right direction which we are having. But as security professionals, we have been struggling with basically the finances, as security is taken as a cost always and not as an investment. And once that mindset changes and people realize that we are in a very volatile sort of a scenario and we require to invest more money, because any amount of money which is used to save lives is money well spent. And as long as we are able to justify this, I think we would be progressing into the right direction. It's at the end of it, it is more of I would say economics, which the business heads they look at. And I was under the impression that things will change after 26/11, which I spoke in the panel also. Unfortunately, very little has been done in that direction. So it is up to us now that we push the right buttons in the corporate so that people start investing more on this side. And as long as there are feet on ground and people are there working in the offices, you will get the profits, the margins you will definitely get. But if the risk manifests into reality, and if there is a general scare which is done, a general scare happens in the industry, people stop coming to the offices. It will have a negative impact, and by that time it will be too late for the stakeholders to realize the damage which has already been done. I would like to quote an example. The example is that when you talk of some risk activity, you ask the guy, are you doing so and so thing? You say, for example, you're going to Leh for a holiday. Your friend will ask you, "Aapne insurance kara liya apna?" He does not realize that insurance does not save lives. Insurance only compensates for the life lost. Loss is already there. So that mindset has to change. You should spend money while you're alive. Make sure that people are secured and they live in a safe environment, they work in a safe environment. Insurance does not help in saving lives. It only compensates. That mindset has to go. And that is a general mindset which is for all.
Okay, so even you rightly mentioned that insurance cannot repay the life that is already
Absolutely.
lost. If we have to go into the people who are willing to come into the private security industry, what are the key skills requirement you would say for them? Like there are various aspects like crowd management, security things. How should their EQ and IQ be, basically?
These skills you're talking of. The basic thing is that once security becomes a high paid job, then you will automatically attract the higher IQ people. So the first thing is that you have to make it lucrative for the youngsters. It should be a more respectable job. As we see now, I'm from the army, and most of the security is actually being taken over by the army guys. There's a reason for it. It is their domain. They feel comfortable doing all this. But for the young talent to come in, you have to make it glamorous, if I may call that, if I can use that word. And the second is money is always a part of it, but the respect which you need is somewhat amiss as of now.
Okay.
The security is actually moved from the basement to the boardroom, but there is a lot of mileage still to be covered. So things will happen. I'm quite optimistic, and young talent is coming in. I saw a few very, very bright and upcoming youngsters in this forum here, and when I spoke to them, I was actually impressed, which was not there 15 years ago. 15 years ago, it was more of a watch and ward service which we were providing, and security was actually taken as, I would say, a backbencher's job. Things are changing, and I'm quite optimistic things will happen.
All right. As you rightly mentioned, that it requires a very keen skill set to even to deliver in the security thing. And army being such a glorious institution of India, the army individuals, they have this skill set that somehow aligns with the sector. I want to ask you one more question, and that is with respect to the concerts and the big events that happen. What we see in the West, there are a lot of concerts, and in other countries also, the people, the artists from abroad come. And in India, it's not that scale, and the larger artists from the West, they also don't come because somehow the management of those things are not apt. I think Sunburn Festival in Goa is the only big thing in India. So on that line, if there needs to be a concert of that scale, what all requirements are there? Where do we lack as Indians?
I would slightly beg to differ on this point because things are happening in India now. We have events coming up. We have like this G20 summit which is there. You're talking of concerts and basically social events. So this G20 summit which we're having, you can take it as a torchbearer or a forerunner for these things. When the message goes across to the greater world that India is becoming secure and we have successfully conducted few events, then these concerts and social activities and the bigger things which you just said, these will also start coming in. So I see quite a, I would say, bright light at the end of the tunnel. So what do we need to do for that? We need to project a scenario that we say that we can provide you the security services, we can provide you the standard which you're looking at, and basically the image building which is lacking now, that has to be built up. And I think Mr. Modi is doing a fantastic job in the image building part. If you see an old movie, maybe 20 years ago, it would basically focus on people starving, people on the roads, beggars on the streets, buffaloes on the road and all that. If you look around in the last about a decade or so, things are changing and things are changing at a very high pace. So it is, I would say, a huge elephant. India is a huge elephant, which is gradually coming into the gate now. And once it gets the momentum, you will see India will become a superpower one day. And you are the ones who are going to be the torchbearers for all this.
Sure.
I see a lot of josh and a lot of stamina and logical thinking in the next generation. I'm of a belief that the next generation will do at least 10 times better job than what we've been doing.
So
I
the
take
next
pride in this
generation-
fact.
Yeah, so next generation holds a lot of hope and
Absolutely.
hopefully the skill set also to progress where we want to achieve. Thank you so much, Karan, for talking to us. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure. All the best.